Hey, Happy New Year, everybody. 2020 from Jim's Holiest of Coleus. Okay, hey, it's only been a few days. We have some good results, really quick results. I'm already getting germinations. If you're following along and your pods or your plants, your Coleus seeds are not germinating yet, don't get upset. Be patient. Is a whole bunch of factors that contribute to how fast your seeds germinate. So don't be discouraged. Just follow along. If you are following along and you planted the seeds alongside with me and you've done pretty much everything I've done, there's no reason why your Coleus seeds won't germinate. So just be patient. So as I said, once I keep track of my seeds here. Very important. If you're using these Jiffy Pod trays, which I really love because they just maintain the moisture. They really provide the perfect environment along with the plant light and the warmth for the seeds to germinate. So very important. As I had mentioned, once you plant your seeds in your pod trays, you cover them until you get your first germinations, which were your first signs of germinations, which you can clearly see. So for the purpose of the video, I'm going to remove this top. But what you do is you want to pop your top off a little bit. Not a lot, just like that. Just slightly to get some air in there. You want to get, because your germinations they're up. So oxygen is very important. With your trays, with your tray top popped like this, your pods may dry out a little in the corners. So just keep an eye on them. Drop some water on them. You don't have to drop them right on the plant. You can just drop it on the corners or whatever. It'll soak in. But you can use whatever, a small dropper if you have a little, even a larger, like maybe like a gravy spoon or something like that. As long as it gets some water. These pods really hold water very well. So anyway, I'm going to pop this top off completely so you guys can see. Here we go. And that's it. Isn't that wonderful? Look at that. And now I know I said you want to keep it between 4, 5 seeds per pod. And I cheat a little. I've been doing this for many years. So I'm a little better at separating them. And also, I try to pick out the strongest. So if I have overseeded, there may be a few that I as I was going along, because after a while when you're doing these, and I try to keep track of what I'm doing, sometimes I'm like, oh, did I do that one? And I might have overseeded. So I keep it very casual. I don't get upset. Life is too short to get upset, especially when you're doing something you enjoy. So again, that goes back to if your pods are not germinating or your plants are not germinating yet, take it easy, be patient, they will. So now, okay, so you see I have, at least, I'm going to say 100% germination, which is excellent. You can see all those little guys coming through. Now, this is perfect. This was the pod that got a little bit too much water. So, and it actually shows up better on the camera, and I'm guessing it'll show up on the video once I download it. But you can see a little bit of, like a little mossy, a little shady covering, a little white film. That's that mold I was telling you about. But it's harmless for the most part. Actually, here's one that didn't germinate yet. So what I do, you can see, now I'm doing this with my finger, but you can see it just really peels away. It's just like, it's like cobwebs. So I'm not doing this with my finger with all of them because I don't want to disturb the little germinations, but a few of them that I see there's no plants, no germinations on them. But what I generally do is once these germinations come up and you start seeing this, I take a model brush and I gently sweep the little cobweb, we'll call it cobweb mold, I don't know the technical name for it. Although some people have mentioned last year they were getting a lot of this. So, but again, it didn't really affect my Coleus because I swept it always. But use a very soft modeling brush and just gently sweep it away. And now that they've germinated and you popped your top, the pods will dry out a little more, and that will rid the little mold. And that's generally because there's a lot of water and just the ecosystem that these pods create. So you don't need to do anything else here now, except for monitor the edges. The edges will tend to dry out faster than the centers because the centers are surrounded with the moisture of others, so they generally don't dry out. And you're talking over the course of the next few months or so. So just check them out. Check them. Get used to, now just careful when you lift these up because you don't want them to separate a lot, but get used to what the tray feels like full. And then you can generally base it on that. I mean, again, I've been doing this a good amount of years, so I generally know. But just don't be afraid to drop some water on them, especially the ones, again, on the end. Okay? You don't need to fertilize. Let them grow. Let nature take its course. They're gonna germinate. You see I have everything labeled here, so I know what's what. Part of me doesn't want to do it. I like the excitement of what's going to be growing, but I decided to label the rows this year instead of just generally. I used to put little stakes, but every year's a little different. So, but this is it. This is now. These germinations in a few more days, a week or so, you're going to start to see the leaves opening up on either side. Now, those leaves are not your Coleus face. Those are not the leaves that are going to grow up to be this. Those are the little pods. The little, I want to call them pods. Those are the leaves that gather, that create the photosynthesis, that gather the photosynthesis of the plant, for the plant, that gather the energy from the sun, from the surroundings, from the plant light to get the plant to grow. And those little pods, the little ears, they look like little ears. I'll post a little picture here of what they look like. But those gather the light, and they'll stay on for some. I had plants that were close to eight months old that still had them on the bottom. So you'll start to see in about a month or so, you'll actually start seeing, or maybe less, you'll start seeing the actual leaves start to develop. And then some, you're going to see the coloring, the little characteristic coloring. It's not going to be vibrant. You'll see some dark spots, and that's the exciting part when you see that. And some will be a little more than others. Here's my other tray. This one, it's germinating, but not quite as much as the other. And this is on the other side of the greenhouse. So I'm going to switch them around. And again, it's the seed. So I got some germinations coming in, but not anything like this one here. And this one actually was a little closer to the heater. I have baseboard that surrounds it, but this one was a little closer to the baseboard, so it could be in any number of things. This one's a little closer to the window, so it's getting a little more daylight. Even though I have the plant light, there's nothing like daylight. So, and again, this is another thing too. If you don't have the Jiffy pods, you can really make your own. Here's some peppers that I put in here. So I just use this again, same thing. It's the same concept. And I made a tray of wildflowers, which I've never done, but I had a packet of wildflowers, bee and butterfly flowers, and you can never get enough bees and butterflies around your plants to pollinate. So I decided let me and these germinated in like 2 days, a day and a half. So remember, I generally plant my Coleus on Christmas Day, but depending on my work schedule, I was delayed a day and a half, 2 days. So I planted these on December 27th. So it's been under a week. You know, about a week or so. That's really great. So again, just once you get your germinations to pop up, just keep your tray, just pop it off gently. You're gonna be more careful later on when your coleus start to get a little taller. You're gonna leave this on for a while. I'll let you know when you could pop that, when you could actually remove it. But then once you remove this, then you're gonna have to. That's when you start to have to put a little more care into them, making sure they get enough water, because you don't want them to dry out. So let's get this back on here, because we don't want these to dry out. So all right, so we're doing really well. I'm very excited. Just a little concerned with this here, but not going to lose sleep over it. They will germinate. There's no reason to think they won't. It's very interesting, though. Very interesting. So, and I got a couple of my winter Coleus. And if you remember from my earlier video, how I mentioned, now if you looked at some of my older videos, you could see what I mean by the overwintered plants. They don't have that vibrancy, that beauty, the real eye-capturing beauty that they do during the summer. They get washed out. They're dormant. They're kind of like hanging out, saying, "Okay, it's winter. You know, wake me up when it's time to go out, and we're just gonna kind of hang out here." There's a few of them that have a little jazz in them. Those little young fellas that refuse to go to sleep. They got a little more, but other than that, it's doing pretty well. You know. Just making sure it dries out faster near the baseboard heat. So I'm going to water them all. Here's my cuttings. I'm going to just do a quick water change. I changed the water on, I think it was like 4 days ago. So it's overdue. Look at that. I'm getting another seed pod coming in. So I'm just going to let that grow out. Just keep going. But it's very important. And you'll start getting some little dead leaves and stuff like that. Again, not all of them make it, but these are there's a Defiance, and that's what I mean by washed out. You can see the center, rather than the edges having that bright red. They're just washed out, and a lot of these I use for my planters around my property. There's some jitters, couple of different variations of jitters. So I'm going to just, again, if you're following along and you've taken some cuttings, just, again, make sure you change the water every few days. Very, very important. Gently rinse that root ball, change your water, especially if it's in a window near the sun. That's going to create conditions like where you might get some mold and so forth. But I rinse these out pretty well. And they're really healthy. These are really, really healthy cuttings. So, and there's no reason why. Now, I know I'm very, very certain that these will last through the winter into the spring, and I'll be planting these in my in a lot of the planters around my property. So that's why I do keep all these rootings. A lot of people ask, "Hey, you know, why don't you pot them now?" I'm not gonna pot. I'm not gonna bring the potting soil in and the potting. I'll do that later on, But again, these I have my planters outdoors already, filled with soil, so I don't really need to pot these because they're going to go right into the planters outside. So, and here's a poinsettia. I've had this for a few years, and it's always blossomed. It's always had the red. It's always grown the red flowers, the leaves. But this year it's skipped. So I did a recommendation. I'm not a poinsettia expert, so I went through the regimen of tricking this plant into thinking it's winter or whatever, which it is. But what I do is I for over a month, I did it for 2 months straight. I put it in the closet at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or right before work, and I left it in a dark closet until the next morning. 16 hours of darkness. And then I brought it out for the light just for a few hours, and then back into the closet just to shock it. And I give it a little fertilizer, and just to shock it. And I'm getting, It worked, and from what I've read, it's very difficult to get these to rebloom their red leaves. So a lot of people, that's why people just throw them out and they just buy new ones, which, but I just don't want to throw it out. It's just like a child to me. This is a child I've had for a long time. I don't want to get rid of it. I'll just keep it. And then once spring comes and everything, it goes into my greenhouse, and I make sure it waters in. That's why it's so strong. It's really like a tree now. So, but I say again, I'm not going to throw it out. It's healthy. It just, I'm hoping. I'm pretty confident. Again, I'm not a poinsettia expert, but I'm confident that I'm going to get some red leaves. It might be around July 4th. It might be Independence Day. We'll call it an Independence Day poinsettia. So, all right. So, any questions or comments here? If you're following along and you're growing Coleus alongside with me, absolutely leave me a comment, question. I'll get back to you. I get 95% of my comments. I really enjoy it. I know I said it before. I really enjoy the interaction with people. Very nice. So here's another. This is a Japanese giant, and again in the spring, this has been in this same pot since I got it. I actually purchased this plant from a Coleus supplier, Rosie Dorn Gardens. So in the spring, I'm going to put this into a bigger pot because it really needs. It's about as far as it's going to go in this little pot. So. All right, so thanks for following along. Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a safe, happy New Year, New Year's Eve. And stay tuned. We'll update in another week or so when these guys start to reach out to the heavens for some more light. And again, with that mold issue, just get yourself a little model brush, a gently, even not really a toothbrush, but something very, very fine that's not going to damage, and that you can pinpoint. And just gently sweep that moss, moldy moss, or whatever you want to call it, away to the back. And it shouldn't return. If it does, just repeat it. But again, as these pods, as a lot of the moisture evaporates away, that will pretty much take care of that mold, that little. You could see it. So okay. So good luck, everybody. Keep following along. Thank you for subscribing. Jim's Wholiest of Coleus, and we'll see you in a few days. Take care, everyone.